Alrighty, so today we're going to be looking at a few examples of factoring when our a value is not 1. Okay, so we're going to go through a few examples, or I'm going to do one and then you're going to do one on your own. So looking at number 1, we have 10a squared plus 25a minus 60. The very first thing we always look for when we factor is our GCF. Okay, always going to be the first thing we look for. So if I look at this, I have 10, 25, and 60. The greatest common factor of those three numbers is 5. So we're going to put the 5 out front. And then 10 divided by 5 will give me 2a squared. 25 divided by 5 will give me 5a. And 60 divided by 5 will give me minus 12. Sorry, blank there for a second. Okay. So looking at this, that was our first step, was GCF. Check. Our second step is now going to be slide. So now we need a slide. So the 5 just stays up front, but we're going to slide that 2 down to that negative 12 and multiply. So I'll have a squared plus 5a. 2 times the negative 12 gives me negative 24. There we go. We slid. Check. Our third step now is just to factor. So we need to think what's going to add to give me a 5 and multiply to give me negative 24. Well, sitting here thinking about it, I hope you maybe thought about a few options. Maybe you're just now writing this down and you're starting to think, well, what are those numbers? Well, okay, I'm going to go ahead and give those to you, but the next one you'll have to come up with them on your own. What adds to 5 and multiplies to negative 24 is going to be 8 and negative 3. So then we can rewrite it as 5, a plus 8, and a minus 3. Check, we factored. So this feels like a really good spot to stop. We're like, we're finished. I've got my parentheses. I'm all done. I don't have to do anything else. But remember, if you slide with the number, you have to divide it back out. Okay, so we actually have to divide out that 2. We slid with the 2, so we need to divide the 2 back out. Oops. So we're going to divide both of our numbers by 2. And then we have to reduce and swing. Okay, so that was our divide step, which we're doing. Oops, forgot the other I. There you go. Okay, so check, we're dividing. So I'll have 5. A plus 8 divided by 2 gives me 4. Now I'll have a minus 3 divided by 2 doesn't reduce, so we just leave it as 3 over 2. So then our last step is swing. Okay, so if I have a denominator, which I do, I have to swing that back up front. So I'll have 5, a plus 4. I swing that 2 up, so I'll have 2a minus 3. And that's going to be my final answer, guys. Now, remember, we talked about this yesterday. Okay, I know this feels like a lot of steps, and I know it's kind of weird, all the pieces that we have to do. But remember, once we get the hang of it, okay, it's going to go like clockwork, and we're going to be good to go. Okay, it's just a matter of getting comfortable with the steps. All right, so looking at number 2. Okay, I'm going to help you with the first step, which is our GCF, and then you're going to do the slide, factor, divide, and swing steps. Okay, looking at these, all of my coefficients, okay, 14, 7, and 70, have a GCF of 7. So that's going to go up front. They also all have an M in common. Notice they all have an M. So I'm going to put 7M up front for my greatest common factor. 14 divided by 7 will give me 2m squared. 7 divided by 7 gives me plus 1m. And negative 7 divided by 7 gives me minus 10. Okay, so from here, I need you to do your slide, factor, divide, and swing steps, and then you can check your work with mine when you're finished. All right, so I hope you took the time to work that one out. We're going to check our work. So we slide the 2 down. So I'll have m squared plus 1m minus 20. From there, I need to think what's going to add to give me 1 and multiply to give me negative 20. Hopefully you came up with the numbers of 5 and negative 4. So I had 7m, m plus 5, and m minus 4. Now, we've talked about that feels like a good spot to stop, but unfortunately we can't. We have to divide. If you slide with a number, you have to divide it back out. The 7m just hangs out front. 5 over 2 doesn't reduce, so we're going to swing that 2 up front. So I have 2m plus 5. Now 4 over 2 does reduce, so I'll have m minus 2. And that right there is going to be my final answer. Okay, so if you still have questions about those steps, please make sure you're asking. Remember, it is always these steps every single time we do a problem. Okay, those steps never change. Slide, factor, divide, and swing every single time. All right, looking at number 3. It says Samsung is designing a new TV that has an area of 12 feet squared. They want the width to be 1 foot shorter than the length. Draw a picture and label the dimensions of the TV. So, we know that TVs have a rectangular shape. Okay, and we know that the area is going to be 12 feet squared. Now, I told you that the width needs to be 1 foot shorter than the length, but I didn't give you anything about the length. Since I didn't give you anything about the length, okay, that's just going to be x. Now, if something is shorter, okay, if we want the width to be 1 foot shorter, we're going to subtract. So it's going to be x minus 1. Now, we've drawn a wonderful picture. Okay, now we actually have to set up our equation. We know that area equals length times width. So we're going to plug in our pieces. We're going to have 12 is equal to our length, which was x, and our width was x minus 1. Now that right there is my equation. Okay, eventually we'll get to the point where then we actually solve this. Okay, so we'll distribute the x and factor and solve from there. We'll get there. We're not quite there yet. All right. So looking at number 4, it says factor the following. We are actually going to skip that one today because we actually haven't done that yet. You'll do that tomorrow, guys. So we're going to skip that one for right now. Remember, we're going out of order because of our weird schedule that we've been having with snow days and late starts. We're having to go a little out of order. All right, and then number 5, determine if the following relation is a function, and then classify the relation or function. Okay, so looking at this, we first need to determine if it's a function. I have negative 1 goes to negative 2, 0 goes to 1, 1 goes to 2, and 2 goes to 1. Since all of my inputs go to exactly one output, yes, this is a function. Okay, we can classify it as a function. Now we actually have to classify it. So this is where we have to look at our differences. So how is our y changing? So to go from negative 2 to 1, we're adding 3. 1 to 2, we're adding 1. And 2 to 1, we're subtracting 1. Well, that's not constant, okay? And the x side is constant, so we know that that's probably not good. Okay, but then we got to check it again. Remember, you got to check your second differences. So from 3 to 1, we're subtracting 2. And then 1 to negative 1, we're subtracting 2. Since those numbers are constant, those are the same, and it's our second differences, we know that this is going to be quadratic. I know it's been a while since we've done that, okay? So that's why we're practicing and we're reviewing, okay? But we know that that's going to be a quadratic function. All right. Okay, so if you have any questions about those, please let me know. Okay, especially the first two. If you're struggling with the first two, please let me know. If not, you can move on to your practice.